Hello guys, Ancient Gameplays, I'm Fabio Pisco, and welcome to my channel. As for this video we have the review of the new Adrenalin drivers, the 25.9.1 drivers, and as I say in all my videos, 25 is the year 2025, 9 is the month September, and 1 is the revision in that same month, so the first revision of September. And before going into more details, I have to tell you that these drivers do bring some things interesting, or should I say they seem interesting, but at the same time they aren't. And if you look at the release notes that we're gonna read, the release notes don't really show you many new things, but there are some new things that aren't on the release notes, but those new things aren't correctly applied or as they should be. I mean, it's kind of a mess. It's an interesting driver version for sure, especially for people looking at FSR 4, and yes, the performance was increased a bit. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, there are several things that I really want to talk about. And I will have to read the release notes here because my phone has died in terms of battery, so it's recharging, and the wife is using the tablet. So I have to read the release notes in this gamepad from Ambernick that you can get, for example, in AliExpress, which is also today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is AliExpress, with the September US promotions, where you can get products that look and feel like this combo. The Aegis AK820 Pro, a well-built sturdy wireless and Bluetooth keyboard with features like a volume knob, a TFT display that allows for customizable visuals like date and time, connectivity type used, backlight effects, and so on. And it even shows you the battery life, battery that has 4000 milliamps, allowing you to almost forget that you actually need to recharge it. And of course you have a pretty nice gasket isolation with a very pleasant key sound. You also have the super light Attack Shark R1, a 59 grams wireless and Bluetooth mouse with a typical right-hand ergonomic design, featuring the PixArt 3311 with up to 18,000 dpi and a 300 mAh battery that will last you up to 65 hours. And as for the price, these are definitely some of the best products that you can get in this price tag. Click the link in the description and use my codes to get up to $135 off your purchase. So, release notes. So firstly we start with highlights with new game support for Borderlands 4 that will be released in a couple of days I believe, and Hell Is Us. We also have new game support for AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution 4, FSR 4, with FSR 4 can now be enabled for most games that support FSR 3 with DirectX 12. So as I was reading this I thought, well, maybe AMD now whitelisted all games and the games that support FSR 3.1 can immediately upgrade to FSR 4. Well, that's not really the case, or at least it is the case because they did whitelist it for all games, but at the same time it isn't. I don't really know what's going on here, but yeah, because if you go to the part that says learn more about this update, it says AMD FSR 4 is now available in over 85 games. But then again, I tested the drivers, and if you go to any game now, FSR 4 just says that it is enabled if the game supports it. So it means that in theory, if the game does have FSR 3.1, the game is automatically whitelisted. So AMD doesn't really need to whitelist even if the game has FSR 3.1. For example, Hogwarts Legacy didn't work before, Titan Quest didn't work before, and now they just work out of the box. But in comparison, Echoes of the End does have FSR 3.1 and doesn't work, even though it is whitelisted on the driver. So something is off because it says that FSR 4 will be enabled if the game supports FSR 3.1, and as soon as I go into the game and enable FSR 3.1, it just doesn't work. But it works in Titan Quest, Hogwarts Legacy, Silent Hill, and so on. I mean, maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but I do think that something's off here. Maybe Echoes of the End doesn't really have an official signed DLL. I don't really know, but that was actually the only FSR 3.1 game that I tested and didn't work. So maybe it has to do with the game DLL, yeah, whatever. And this is basically what we have on FSR 4, but I can tell you that FSR 4 is now on the 4.0.2 version. And by the way, 4.0.1 already improved upon 4.0.0, which was the first version, and it improved, for example, in Marvel Spider-Man 2, when you're moving, when you're kind of dashing with a web, from kind of a standing perspective to a really fast movement, you could see some shimmering, and FSR 4.0.1 improved on that, and 4.0.2 improved in some cases scenarios. At least I believe that quality wise it is better. especially when we're talking about ray tracing and path tracing, but again, we'll get there. As for the fixed issues and improvements, we have some, starting with corruption may appear while playing Mafia the Old Country on the Radeon RX 6600 series graphics products, intermittent application crash or driver timeout may be observed while playing Wuchang Fallen Feathers with FSR 4 enabled on the RX 9000 series graphics products. I didn't experience any crash, I believe. PlayStation VR controllers are not detected while playing Steam VR, also fixed. And the last fixed issue is intermittent application crash or driver timeout may be observed while playing Monster Hunter Wilds with ray tracing enabled and recording with AMD software on the RX 7600, 7700 and 7800 series graphics products. It is kind of a niche problem, but at least it got fixed. But as usual, this is not just cotton candy and unicorns, we also have the known issues, and we have lots of them, which isn't bad per se, because it means that AMD acknowledges those issues and are trying to fix them, but at the same time, they are known and they didn't get fixed. The first known issue is intermittent application crash may be observed while playing The Last of Us Part 2 on the Radeon RX 7900 series graphics products. The second one is intermittent application crash may be observed while playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on Radeon RX 9000 series graphics products. Now, this is a new one, I guess. Intermittent application crash may be observed while playing NBA 2K25 in My Career mode on the Radeon RX 9070 series graphics products. AMD is actively working on a resolution to be released as soon as possible, okay. Intermittent application crash may be observed while playing FBC Firebreak on some Ryzen processors such as the Ryzen AI 300 series and Ryzen 7000 series, another issue that has been occurring for quite a long time. Then we have stutter may be observed while playing games with some VR headsets at 80 or 90 Hz refresh rate on some AMD graphics products such as the Radeon RX 7000 series. Users experiencing this issue are recommended to change the refresh rate as a temporary workaround, and this is an issue that has been happening for quite some time and AMD needs to fix this. Months have passed and this is still an issue and needs to get fixed. I mean, if AMD wants to be an option when it comes to VR, which they aren't right now, and it is an issue, but it is growing, it is an issue that's growing, they need to look into those issues and they need to fix it. They need to make the Radeon 9000 series better in terms of VR as well. I mean, whatever. I guess it is what it is. Another known issue is corruption. Missing scanned travel lines may be observed while playing GTFO on Radeon RX 7000 series graphics products, another annoying issue. And the last known issue is intermittent application crash or driver timeout may be observed while loading a save game in Cyberpunk 2077 with path tracing enabled. And this is the last one, and finally it seems that AMD acknowledges that there are issues with path tracing and Cyberpunk 2077. But well, as usual, let's go to the things that I found good and bad about these drivers, and as you can see we have a lot, and I do like the analog or the analogic. In Portuguese we say analogic, but I do like the analog writing, so yeah, even though I work with computers and so on. And just for you to know, guys, you always ask a lot what peripherals do I use, so today I wanted to show you as well the Keychron P1HE, the Daisy Edition. It's basically a 75% keyboard with custom keycaps to make it feel like you're into Daisy's world, featuring wired, wireless and Bluetooth connections. Metal gasket design, I mean, this thing is sturdy and doesn't budge an inch. Like, as you can see in my arm, I'm making some force and it just won't budge. And you also have magnetic switches from Gateron, one of the best switches or one of the best brand for the switches. And you can even change the actuation point, which is very, very nice. You don't even need to install any software to customize it. You just go to your browser and you have all the software there. I mean, it's great, like the Keychron Q6 Max. And don't skip right away because I want to show you the Keychron M6 mouse. I mean, this thing is what really surprised me. This mouse, outside of being very light and bringing extra buttons that actually make sense, like the button to go back, but what surprised me are the mouse buttons. Look at this, they basically make no noise whatsoever. It's kind of that thok feeling. And as for the design, it is also a bit taller in the middle, making you use, instead of using the hand like this, as we usually use it, that puts a strain on the wrist. You use it like this, which feels more natural, and after a while you will like it much more. So instead of using the mouse like this, with your hand like this, it forces you to use it like this, and again, for the wrist, it is a much more natural position. I have the Keychron Q6 Max as a daily driver, and it works wonderfully, and I like this very much, especially the Keychron M6. Very, very nice mouse. So the first thing that I found about the 25.9.1 drivers is that they bring generally better performance. I obviously didn't test every game, there are lots of games to test, but from the ones that I tested, and I did test some for this video, for example, Echoes of the End and Mafia, I did test some others, and it seems to me that with the 7900 XTX and the 9070 XT, we have more FPS generally. Again, maybe not in all games, but generally we have an FPS boost, especially in the 1% lows in some cases. And these are the good things, and we have some others, for example, with FSR 4. FSR 4 now works for most FSR 3.1 games. I won't say all because Echoes of the End doesn't really work. We now have FSR 4.0.2 instead of 4.0.1, which is an improved version, at least from what I tested in Robocop, in some other games like Titan Quest, and FSR 4 now comes on by default. And this is a thing that I didn't understand before. Anyone that is using FSR in their games, they want the best FSR quality they can get. And with the previous drivers, FSR 4 didn't come enabled by default, meaning that if you install the drivers, if you don't really know about it, you install the drivers, you go to your game and FSR 4 won't appear or won't be enabled because it wasn't enabled by default. So you needed to go into the Adrenalin software and enable FSR 4. Now it comes enabled by default, a thing that should have been done from the beginning. And in terms of the notification that you get with FSR 4, it also changed. So before we had the kind of the menu that would show FSR 4 is active and so on, so on, so on. That is also there. But now when you go into the game and as soon as you enable FSR inside the game, you'll have kind of a notification telling you that FSR 4 update was active. Imagine that you go into Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy won't show that you have FSR 4, but as soon as you enable FSR 3.1, you'll get a notification saying that FSR 4 upgrade was enabled, meaning that you are now using FSR 4. And if you go, of course, into the Adrenalin software, in the gaming tab of Hogwarts Legacy, it will show that FSR 4 is enabled. So the notifications did change a bit, which is a good point in my opinion, because if the game doesn't really show that you're using FSR 4, you now get a notification saying that it is enabled, even though the game just shows FSR 3.1. As for the games that I tested with FSR 4 compared to the previous drivers, the 25.8.1, Silent Hill 2 now works, Titan Quest 2 works as well, Hogwarts Legacy works, even though AMD didn't really say that these new games are working, they just are, because again, they whitelisted the drivers, meaning that if you go to any application like, for example, Alan Wake 2, Alan Wake 2 doesn't really support FSR 4 because the game only supports FSR 2 instead of FSR 3.1. But if you go into the games page on the Adrenalin software, you can see that it shows FSR 4 enabled. So in theory, FSR 4 should work for all games that support FSR 3.1. But it doesn't, because again, Echoes of the End supports FSR 3.1, and FSR 4 just doesn't work. But maybe that's an outlier, they have some issues, I don't know. Also, FSR 4.0.2 seems to have better quality, especially when it comes to path tracing. I tested with Cyberpunk 2077 and I tested with a game called Disordre, because it also has path tracing, and it seems to me that FSR 4.0.2 just handles path tracing better in terms of shimmering, in terms of many other things. It just handles the lighting better, has less shimmering, has more detail, and even at 1440p ultra wide, doing like balanced or even performance mode, it didn't have a great quality, but it was quite okay-ish, which in my opinion is great since we're talking about like 720p to 1440p, and it still was decent at least. So yeah, that's definitely an improvement. Now, things that I didn't like about these drivers. First, when with a 9070 XT, when I was recording some games, the recording was bugged and didn't show the game's name and didn't create a folder, just showed the date. And while with some games it works, with some others that are already supported like Mafia, it just created a file, and with this order the same thing, just created a file saying the date, and that's about it. Shouldn't really happen, but happened. With the 7900 XT X, it didn't. Another thing that I didn't like was that we don't really have FSR 4 for Vulkan, and they absolutely specify that on the blog that you can read through the driver's link. They say that they don't support Vulkan yet. Why? I mean, we have Doom, the Dark Ages, we have Indiana Jones, and now that Indiana Jones has all these features for the RTX cards, we can't even have FSR 4 with Indiana Jones, and it sucks. And I didn't even play the game because I don't really have FSR 4. That's how things work nowadays. I want more performance, I want high refresh rates, and I can't really have those high refresh rates because I don't really have FPS or enough FPS at a decent quality because the game doesn't support FSR 4. AMD just needs to work with Vulkan FSR 4 ASAP, and when I got an email telling me that I wasn't really able to get an early driver version of this driver, because usually they send me a driver version like 2 days before the release in order for me to test before, and they told me something like, well, keep an eye on it because there will be really interesting things. And while there are really interesting things, I was really hoping for much more. I was hoping for something like FSR 4 on Vulkan, which would be a new and big thing, really, which would be a big thing, more than you think. And I was hoping for something like FSR 4 for RDNA 3, something that still isn't happening. And we know that we had that leak with FSR 4 with int 8. FSR 4 now uses FP8 instructions for the RDNA 4, but it seems that AMD, instead of doing an FP16 version, they are doing actually an int 8 version in order to work with the APUs as well, basically in order to make it work for everything possible. We have better performance, we have better FSR quality, we have more things on the software, like FSR 4 being on by default. We have FSR 4 whitelisted for every single game, it seems. But yeah, we still don't have FSR 4 for Vulkan, nor RDNA 3, which is a bummer. And well guys, that's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe and share this video. Leave your comment in the comment section with your experience in these drivers, because sometimes you want to see my opinion, you want to go into the comment section and see what others' experiences are, and that's exactly why I make these videos, for us as a community to grow and for AMD to also watch the videos and know what's going on, because believe me, in most times or in most cases they do watch the videos. So if you have any issues, leave them in the comment section. Thank you very much and see you in the next video, guys. Cheers.
More of them up ahead.
Gentlemen, you are a lot easier on the eyes when I know you come bearing gifts. Production's really moving, eh?
Everything's golden. The system works, it's hidden, quiet. Nobody goes near the place. It's like it isn't even there.
Beautiful. And long may that continue.
In your side of things?
So far, like clockwork. From here to Empire Bay, we have someone at every link in the chain. And what we've started getting in return. Oof.
More of them up ahead.
Gentlemen, you are a lot easier on the eyes when I know you come bearing gifts. Production's really moving, eh?
Everything's golden. The system works. It's hidden, quiet. Nobody goes near the place. It's like it isn't even there.
Beautiful. And long may that continue.
And your side of things?
So far, like clockwork. From here to Empire Bay, we have someone at every link in the chain. And what we've started getting in return... Oof.